got to tell y'all about this thing called life. You know I got to share it. See, there's this thing called life. I got to tell y'all. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 166 of In a Good Way podcast. Today's very special guest is Dr. Ingrid Honkala. She is a marine biologist, a former NASA oceanographer, and international speaker. She has had multiple spiritual transformative experiences, including four near-death experiences, one in childhood or two in childhood and two in adulthood, and many other close encounters with death. Dr. Honkala was born in Bogota, Colombia, where she grew up with her parents and three sisters. From the moment of her first NDE at the age of 2, Ingrid was aware of other dimensions of life than most of us normally experience. She was also gifted with the wise input of beings of light who gave her invaluable insights and assistance as she faced the challenges of growing up and finding her professional destiny as an oceanographer and now as a giver of light. So welcome, Ingrid. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor.
Thank you so much, Omar. Thank you for that introduction and thank you for having me here. It's an honor.
No, absolutely. And I already had met Ingrid. She actually was one of the hosts, or she held space for me as I gave a presentation for SAI, Spiritual Awakenings International. So thank you. I was telling Ingrid I was reading her book, so it's an amazing book. I'm barely on chapter 11, and it's like a must read, right? Very intriguing, right? There's so much more. So that kind of, I know there's so much questions I could ask you, because usually I like to start asking my guests from the things they experienced at childhood, but your thing started at childhood. From childhood, you already had quite a few experiences. Like yeah, even the first 10 chapters, I'm still in your childhood right there, and so many things already happening. Um, so yeah, if you don't mind, we'll start there. You know, your first NDE, now we know was even younger than what you thought before. So I don't know if you want to take us through that. You said that you haven't really spoken about that NDE yet. So if you want to start at that one, and then we can go into, the one you had at in the water tank, right?
Yeah, okay, let's do that. Yeah. I I I usually don't share about that like first because I don't remember it.
Oh, okay.
It just came to my mind because I was told about it. Like 3 years ago I had my last and hopefully no more near that experience during a surgery.
Mm,
When I was recovering from what had happened, in my conversations I been having throughout my whole life with what I describe as beings of light, there was a revelation in which
mm,
I had another near death experience when I was just an infant. And that was a complete surprise because I did not have a clue of that. My other three near death experiences, I remember like, you know, I can remember all of these better than the breakfast I had this morning.
oh wow.
So it's that clear in my mind. But that one, no memory. I guess I was just so little. And what happened is that my dad was taking a nap and I was sleeping right next to him. My mom just put me right next to him, like,
Mm,
okay, daddy's there. Let's put the baby there. And then he just didn't know I was there. And he turned around and kind of lie on, like almost on me, like if probably he thought that was a pillow that was
oh
next
wow.
to him and he smothered me.
Mm,
But the incredible thing is my dad never really shared that with anybody because when he woke up and phoned me next to him, he said I was just like peaceful, peaceful little baby. And he just thought, I kill her. And he started to shake me strongly until I came back crying. And the reason, yeah, he never said anything. He said that he felt so guilty that he probably have killed me. But the thing is, Omar, that I didn't have idea of that experience. My dad really, like I said, never shared because he felt very guilty about what had happened. But when I was told by the beings of light after my last near-death experience, I said, I don't remember that.
Mm.
Nobody ever mentioned that. And he said, ask your father. So to validate that this was real. And then I went, and when I asked him, he's just like, how do
Wow.
you know that? I never share with anybody. The only thing that he said to my mom, just mad, was like, never leave the baby next to me. I could have killed her. I could have
Mm.
hurt her. But he never said that he actually did, because he just thought it was just this horrendous fear, thinking he had killed me. So
Wow.
that was amazing. And when, of course, I asked the beings of light, like, why I had had so many different experiences like these, I had the clarity, the realization. It had been like peeling the layers
Oh.
of, like an onion, peeling layers, the layers of remembrance. And with each experience, I started to go back to the core, or to the essence of who I am truly. So it's been a whole process of going back and remember who I am. And it started, to the point that my mom said that I was always a different kind of child. So
Mm.
even after that very experience, my mom said that I would just be looking at the world like if I was just in, oh, like I was, she said I could just touch a lint or be there like for like lost in this yeah, wonder. So that was just incredible. And then it came the first near death experience that I remember now with complete clarity. And that also happened when I was a little child.
Mm.
But again, this one I remember with perfect clarity. And what happened is that I was born in Bogota, Colombia, and my parents would leave us in the care of a maid when she was working. They both left very early every morning. And then this lady didn't pay attention to us
Mm.
when my parents were not around. And I was close to 3 years old. So I was
Wow.
still just a little tiny one. And my oldest sister was close to 4.
Mm.
And then nobody's watching. We decided, let's go play in the patio. And in this patio there was a tank, like it was completely full with water. It was a big tank.
Mm.
It was about 900 gallons of water.
Wow.
The purpose of this tank was just to collect water in case it was needed, and to do laundry. 'Cause
Ah.
back then they didn't have the washing machine. It was done by hand. So, but we were told not to play in this tank because
Mm.
we didn't know how to swim. And when you're little and they tell you not to do something, oh, that's a lot of fun. Huh? So just like no one is watching, we found stools, we climbed the tank, and we were playing with a ball. And she threw the ball, and she didn't apply enough force. We were playing cash across the tank, and then the ball fell, is floating underwater. And then I thought, oh, I can grab the ball. I mean, so I leaned forward. And the moment I touched the ball, it rolled,
Oh.
lost my balance, and fell in the tank.
Mm.
And Omar, the first feeling was that the water was frigid cold. People have
Mm.
this conception that because I'm from Colombia, I come from hot weather country, but the water in this tank was frigid because Bogota's high up in the Andes.
Oh.
So maybe the temperature in this water early in the morning probably was 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So
Wow.
imagine the first feeling was like, it already took my breath away
Mm.
immediately. This cold water. And then I had never been in a pool. We didn't have a bathtub. So I never had the head underwater. I didn't know. Imagine at that short age, I didn't know that if you fall in the water, you drown.
Mm.
We were just told not to play in the tank, but we didn't have the understanding. And then now I am in this desperate feeling why I cannot breathe. Imagine the terror.
Mm.
And something incredible happened, Omar, when I am in this. absolute horror in just the flash like that. Peace,
Wow.
absolute peace and calmness and serenity. I didn't know what happened. I just knew now I didn't have to go out of the tank. I didn't need to breathe. I didn't need to go anywhere. And it was just that, oh. And then people ask me, how can you remember this if you were so little?
Mm.
And I have to say, actually, how can I forget?
Ah.
First, the terror of drowning. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Second, there was a lot of contrast that came after that. First, the contrast of the horror of not being able to breathe to peace. Next contrast, this tank was entirely made of cement. It was dark space.
Mm.
And then the last thing I saw when I drowned was the darkness.
Mm.
And then suddenly, Omar, light came from below. And it was like it was soft, like the light of a candle, but it was able to illuminate the whole surrounding.
Mm.
And it's when I even had the feeling of thinking, oh, now there is light. And then the next contrast was the noise. I was in a very noisy house with sisters, with dogs, with birds. It was with cousins. It was noisy. And also when I was drowning, at that very moment, my heart was beating like a drum. Imagine when you're scared that your heart is like, you have your adrenaline pumping, your heart is beating, and I could hear it in my head like a drum.
Mm.
And the moment I went into peace, silence,
Wow.
absolute silence. And, I call it the silence behind the silence because it's not the normal silence when you turn off the radio, it's this silence that comes with complete and absolute peace.
Mm.
Which is like, to the point, Omar, that I love that silence so much that I wanted that silence back even after the experience. And throughout my childhood and throughout my life. But when I was a child, I would hide in closets, under the sheets, under the bed. I wanted that silence back.
Mm.
And of course, it took me many years to realize that that was not a silence that was outside of myself, but I didn't know.
Mm.
So at that moment, now I am in that silence, that light, that peace, and I started to see bubbles. And the bubbles were surrounded by light. And wow, that was beautiful. And I'm like, what is this? Imagine that childlike spirit. And I'm like, so I started to chase the bubbles. And it was by chasing the bubbles that I turned around and I saw my body.
Mm.
And my body is just like they're suspended in the water. And I just knew I didn't feel any fear or anything. It was like, oh, that's my body. And then the thing that actually impacted me wasn't to see the body, was to see the eyes. When the body was floating there, the eyes were open. And this is an image that never went away from my mind, was the realization that the eyes were empty. You know
Oh.
how we say that the eyes are like the mirror of the soul?
Mm.
It was like if the body was a costume and it was empty. So it
Wow.
was the feeling like, whoa, that was the thing that impacted me from the whole thing. And then it comes the other contrast. I was born as a very, very sick child.
Mm.
And sometimes we wonder why a child will be born sick like that. I was born with respiratory problems. And then I think that had to happen that way for me, again, to offer me the contrast of knowing the difference between being ill and this amazing state of well-being. I
Mm.
think if I was born as a very healthy child, I would not have known the difference. Maybe I could not even remember the experience because I come from feeling well to being well.
Mm.
But I didn't know in almost 3 years, Omar, what was to feel well. I only knew illness. And now I am in like a state of absolute well-being. What do you think I did? I look at the body and I'm like, I'm not going back there. And I made the conscious decision of leaving the body behind.
Oh, wow.
And I turn around and I walk away. And I say I walk away, I didn't know what was walking or what, but I just left the body.
Mm.
Then I wasn't thinking who I was, nothing. I just was living the moment, you can say. And then when I turned around, I started to see flowers. And the flowers were blooming from nowhere. They were majestic. And I'm like, and then the lights, the flowers pick me up.
Oh,
So
wow.
imagine even the sense of dimension. I mean, how big these flowers had to be. They pick me up and they're carrying me. And then I'm going like this in a forward direction, like towards light. And then I'm just in the state of bliss. And in just a flash like that, I went from that to be floating above the maid. And I'm looking at her from above and I'm like, oh, that's Maria. And she's just there listening to soap operas in the radio.
Oh, wow.
And she's completely unaware, Omar, of what is happening.
Wow.
Listening to her radio playing there. And I'm like, oh, I'm looking at her from above. And then the moment I said, oh, that's Maria, and nothing happened, I shifted to a different reality. And
Mm.
now I am floating above my mom. And she was on her way to work. She was walking and she was near to her bus stop. And then this is, I think this part of the whole story is incredible because one, validate the story. And two, I think it blows everybody's minds away because the moment that I'm floating above my mom and I said, oh, that's mom, she stopped.
Oof.
Different than from the maid. She was into her thing. Imagine this connection. It's just the love connection that
Mm.
doesn't know barriers. And then it's even more powerful when I share with people that that day my mom was going, it was the first day of her new job.
Wow.
So imagine if you have a new job, you're all about the new job. You're not going to, oh, that's your new job. So my mom, the moment I say that's mom, she stopped and she forgot about everything. She just knew, Omar, that something was happening at home with one of her babies and that she had to go back.
Wow.
And she turned around and she started to run back home. And when she's running, I'm just looking at her thinking, why is she running? Because I didn't have it at that moment. I'm just in that moment. I'm like, why is mom running? And then I kind of chased her a little bit until like I got distracted by a dog that is sitting at the end of the street. And I'm like, I love animals. And I'm like, oh. And the moment I feel the desire to be with the dog, I am with the dog.
Oh, wow.
And I forgot everything about my mom now. And then that was so much fun. And then I saw a park. And the moment I felt the desire to be in the park, I am in the park.
Mm.
Like, this is so much fun. It's like time and space as we know it just vanish. And now I could be anywhere, anytime.
Mm.
And I started to play that game of going places. And I'm having just a lot of fun when in another blink like that, I appear in a realm. And it was a realm made of pure, bright, intense white light.
Mm.
And then this was the first time, Omar, in my almost 3 years of life that I felt I am home.
Mm.
The feeling of home, of like, this is my place where you just feel embraced and welcome and like you know it. And then I also started to feel the sense like if I was becoming part of everything, like I was dissolving.
Wow.
And I was still having a sense of self, but it was that sense of this absolute sense of belonging. And it's when something else happened. Although I had seen my body in the water, like I keep mentioning, I don't know what I was. I wasn't thinking about it. At this moment is when I had the realization, whoa, I am not that body.
Mm.
I am not that persona. I am not that. And it's when I realize myself as a being of light.
Wow.
And when I am in that state, it actually went even farther, in which that sense of self even vanished. And I experienced what I call nothingness.
Mm.
People call it non-self, some people call it emptiness. And then when I say nothingness, people get scared. So I say, let me explain what is it. And I like to give an analogy. Imagine you have a huge stadium, and in the middle of the stadium, there's a little box.
Mm.
And all I thought I was, and all we think we are, is that little box. And suddenly the box opens, and you realize, wow, it's nothing, because it's nothing you thought you were.
Mm.
But at the same time, it's wholeness.
Mm.
Last, I'm not the box, I am the totality.
Mm.
I am the, and it was the sense of expansion.
Mm.
Was also the realization is there was not really, this is the most difficult part to explain of this whole experience, because there was really, if I could, there's no description, there's no meaning, there's no feeling, there's not color, there's not sound, there's not movement. It was just, imagine pure potential, I would just say, like
Mm.
that holds everything. Maybe if I could use words, Omar, I could just say it's a place of my dog, pure presence,
Mm.
absolute consciousness. And if I have any emotion that I could just use again, will be that of bliss.
Mm.
Bliss. And then when I am in my bliss, my mom finally arrived home. And then this is the other incredible thing, Omar. She knew exactly where to go.
Oh.
August.
Hey.
And she directed herself to the back of the house.
Oh, wow.
While I was in my bliss, my mom, she finally arrived home.
Mm.
And this is the other amazing part, Omar. My mom knew exactly where to go. And she directed herself to the back of the house. She didn't waste any time going anywhere, like she knew. And then when she arrived to the patio, my oldest sister was there, but she was trying to help me to get out
Mm.
of the tank. And she didn't go to the maid to say anything, because we didn't supposed to be playing in that tank. So imagine the fear of like, oh, we're going to be scolded. So she's trying to help me. And when she sees my mom, she's like, Mom, Ingrid is there and I cannot get her. And my mom get in the tank, and then she started to do anything she knew to revive me. She worked with children,
Mm.
and she was had some training about CPR. So imagine the synchronicities. So
Mm.
knew at least some of what to do. And when she's trying to revive me, she said like I was like a raggedy doll, no
Mm.
pulse, breathing. We don't know how long I was in the water. And then I was completely disconnected from this body. And the only thing I felt, Omar, was that suddenly, like I had jumped from the tallest building in the world, and that there was nothing I could do to stop that.
Oh, wow.
So it was the feeling, but I resisted because I was having fun. I'm in my bliss, and now I am like, no.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like I'm being pulled, like I'm being sucked back in the body. And when I am back, I know it, because imagine going from the expansive state of being back into the little box, into this
Mm.
body. And also imagine now the feelings of the illness of the body, the feeling of the coldness of that water, the everything. It was just, it was horrible. It was uneasy. It was like, I do not want to be here.
Mm.
And I was very angry. So I give another analogy because people like, oh, but you know, the rescue, you should be happy. I'm like, no, because imagine that you're a child and they take you to an amusement park.
Ah.
You're having the happiest day of your life. And suddenly the parents are like, oh, let's go home. Oh,
Mm.
no, I don't want to go no home. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
be here. So I was very angry. I didn't want to be back. And then things just became very hard for us, Omar, because besides being angry because of that, I came back with an awareness, a clear, it was a clear state of awareness that I didn't have before. Even though I was so little, you might say, wow, Ingrid, you were just almost only 3, but there was a before and after.
Wow.
And when I came back, I would just look at my parents and have the feeling, the realization, these are not just my parents, because I had experienced oneness.
Mm.
I felt them as my equal.
Oh,
And
wow.
I became very rebellious because I was like, why do I have to listen to these people?
Oh, wow.
And I was very detached from that thing of parents and children relationship. I was like, who are you to tell me what to do?
Mm.
The other thing is that I already came with the consciousness that I was not just this body. I'm not this body. I just realized I was a being of light. What am I doing with this body?
Mm.
And I would look at myself in the mirror and I would cry and tell my mom, you don't understand. I am not this, not this person. I am not this name. And I never felt like a child again.
Mm.
After that, I just became very serious. I have pictures of before and after.
Oh, wow.
Tell this is a complete different person.
Oh, wow.
And even the way I acted, the way I looked, the way I perceived, I was two people,
Mm.
like in my personality, in my way of being. Like I just became very serious. And then
Mm.
after that, also to validate that this child, there was something different with the child. There was even things that you could measure. Like I started to show abilities I didn't have before, in which sense I'm just about to be 3 years old. And after the experience, very soon they started to realize that I could read, I could
Mm.
write,
Mm.
I could develop mathematical problems, I could
Wow.
put together complex puzzles. And it went more and more and more as I grew. It was like very easy for me to get the information to. And this is the other thing, Omar. Kids at that age, they have not developed yet the abstract concept. The abstract mind doesn't develop until the child is about 7, even 10.
Mm.
I came back with it. That's why I could associate words and numbers and letters and all that, because of that capability. And when I was later in school and throughout my life, I started to say, oh, I'm not learning any of this. I'm just remembering.
Ah.
I'm just remembering. So that was incredible. So imagine now this girl, and for my parents, it was very hard because they didn't know how to deal with me. There was not any knowledge about near their experience. They didn't know what even happened.
Mm.
Yeah, and other than the doctors checking my physical state, of course, I got even worse in my respiratory problems after drowning. They didn't know. Nobody knew what happened. And then me, I was just having a lot of trouble. But the way this got resolved was also in a very miraculous way.
Mm.
And is when I talk about these beings of light. So what happened is that also after my near death, I started to have what we know today as out of body experiences.
Mm.
So every time I would go to sleep, deep sleep, I will go back consciously to the light.
Oh.
And I wanted to stay there. And in one of these journeys, one day, Omar, I was surrounded by starlight figures.
Mm.
Nowadays, people call them like orbs. I was surrounded by lights. And then in another journey, one of these orbs or a starlight figure that was shining in gold shaped itself into a human form. And it
Mm.
touched me like, look, we're the same. And I'm like, oh, You are a being of light. That's why I call them beings of light. It's just the way they look. And then nowadays, those days I wanted to sleep forever. My
Mm.
parents, of course, fired that lady that almost let me drown in the tank. And then they hired another one, but because I was sleeping and she didn't have to take care of me, that was good.
Ah.
One less problem. And then she let me sleep forever. But now I could not be the girl that is left forever. So
Mm.
to compensate for that, one day I'm taking a shower. And then is when suddenly out of the blue, an intense shiny blue light appeared in the bathroom. And then I said, now the beings of light are here.
Mm.
And before in my let's call it out of body experiences, I was just seeing them, and that gave me a lot of calmness.
Mm.
But now I started to see them here, and this is when later in life I understood that there was already a teaching there, because when they started to appear here is when the peace and the feeling of home, I started to feel it here. So now I was okay to eat and to play with my sisters and to be here. And later in life is when I understood the message was I didn't need to go anywhere. That
Mm.
home was not a place, was a state of being.
Mm.
And then now feeling more like, oh, I could be here. This is okay. This is good. But I was still throwing tantrums because
Oh.
I didn't have like the sense that I belong. I didn't have the sense that I related. I could not relate with my name or my persona. So up to this point, I could now feel the beings of light. I could see them. I could smell them, Omar. The smell was like flowers. Like, oh, they are here. And then the time I started to hear them was when I threw a big tantrum because they were calling my name to go eat dinner.
Ah.
And I didn't want to go, and I didn't want them to call me like that. I just felt aggravated. And then, Ingrid, we're calling you for dinner. And I turned to the lady and said, don't call me like that. That's not my name.
Mm.
And she just said, like all aggravated, then what is your name? What should I call you? And then I said, I do not need one.
Oh.
Imagine it. You just go to bed, enough with you. And I went to bed and I'm crying. And then is when I heard a voice for the first time that says, it's going to take time for them to understand that names are not needed
Mm.
in the realm of the light.
Mm.
Like labels, you are essence. Labels are only needed here.
Mm.
So it's when, of course, I understood, yeah, this is important here, but not there. So they were giving me the clarity you already know. And then I'm like, oh, now I understand why I am not need a name and that I am not crazy.
Ah. Ha, ha.
So, because for me, Omar, there was a moment in which I really didn't know, like for me was the sense that this reality was the dream, like which is kind of like that. But
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like that was my reality and this was just a dream. So after that, I also received two more messages. Another one was that everything that was happening to me and that was about to happen, so it was like there's more to come, wasn't for me to keep, but it was for me to share. But
Mm.
that it would happen later, and they showed me later in the future. But they said not to talk about it now because people will not going to understand. And I was aggravated because I was like, what is not to understand?
Mm.
This is my reality that I'm living. What do you mean they don't understand? Oh, but yeah, very soon it was clear nobody understood. And imagine being a child, it was like, come on, like they're going to think that you are dreaming, that you have a lot of fantasies, this and that. So it's like nobody really understood. So I got it pretty quick. And the other thing they said that I was not never going to be alone. That there were
Mm.
going to be people in my path that was going to help me.
Mm.
And they were very right about that. Like the first person was my mom. And she was already kind of seeing things, but she wasn't sure what this was until I went to kindergarten. And then I started to paint beings of light everywhere.
Mm.
The beings of light told me not to say anything, but I didn't say anything about painting. So I'm painting beings of light everywhere. And
Mm.
then the teacher was curious. She's like, oh my God, they already thought that I was strange because I was definitely very different. And then she's like, are these the sun, the stars? Like, oh. And I said, no, these are my friends, the beings of light.
Mm.
Maybe nowadays you name an orb, you name a being of light, and people are like, okay, back then, I mean, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, this girl is having imaginary friends. Something is not right here. So they called my parents. My mom came to school, my dad was busy. And then when they started to see all my drawings, we discovered something else that my mom revealed later to me, but she's like, she realized that I could see auras with
Mm.
all my paintings. So, but they were pointing these things like all my auras, all my paintings are auras. And then is when I was so desperate to be validated that I turned to my mom and I'm like, Mom, these are my friends, the beings of light, and these are the colors that we wear, period. And
Mm.
my mom turned like with these mom eyes, like, be quiet. Like she made me those eyes, like, mom's just going like, and I'm like, she just didn't want me to be in trouble. So it was like, I went quiet and she just told the teacher, this is just a phase, we will fix it. And then my mom, we just left the room and I'm like, oh, she's mad and nobody believed me. And I was just devastated. But when we were on our way home, far from school, she said, I believe you.
Mm.
And I said, why? And she's like, yeah, I believe you. And she's confessed at this moment that she could see things that others couldn't.
Ah.
And that she was seeing spirits.
Mm.
What was called a spirit. I didn't understand what that was, but she explained that she could see spirits. And I'm like, whoa. But immediately she validated the beings of light. She said,
Mm.
do not tell anybody, because she thought we were seeing the same thing, because she said people fear what they don't understand.
Ah.
So keep it for yourself and you can tell me, but nobody else.
Mm.
Okay. So that's when that silence, the real silence, started. And then the other person that, there's another thing here, and is that we didn't have really understanding what the two of us are really seeing. Now I think that I see the same thing my mom does. And then when I was 6 years old, I saw the first spirit. And well, again, I didn't know these concepts or whatever, but I felt the difference.
Oh.
Because it wasn't shining like the beams of light, it was different. And it caused me a lot of fear.
Oh.
So it was completely different experience. So it was now the contrast of experiencing what each thing was. And then I ran to my mom and I was first light in the morning. I ran to her and I said, Mom, the spirits and the beings of light are not the same. Now I have a language. Now I'm 6 years old. And my mom explained clearly then what is it that you see. And then I'm explaining everything, and my mom started to cry. And she say, I think you see angels.
Mm.
And it's when I said, Mom, I don't think they are angels because they don't have wings. Because, in the Catholic, I grew up as a Catholic, which we knew angels with the wings. And then, but my mom just, no, in her mind, they have to be angels. And
Mm.
then I already been talking to the beings of light for a little while, for a couple of years. And then I asked, first I said, what happened with these dark spirits? Who are they? I call them dark because they caused me fear, not
Mm.
because I knew they were bad or not. And the answer was incredible, Omar, because they said that thing that you call angels, you ask. I thought they were going to say, yeah, they're different. The answer was, we are, at the core of our being, we are the same.
Oh.
The difference is the level of awareness that you have about who you truly are.
Mm.
In essence, we are soul, we're spirit. We're all connected to the same source. See, but we forget who we are. And they said the ones that completely have forgotten who they are and they are very attached to the matters of this world are the ones that are kind of like trapped in, like the one that you see like the spirit there in the house walking around or whatever, is because they just lost their way. They don't know who they are. But
Mm.
you can help them just by praying or guiding them to the light. So it was when they gave me that clear understanding, and then I felt more the sense of compassion. And then there was then the other part in which I asked them, my mom said that you are angels. Is that what you are? And the answer was incredible. Is when they said to me, we are what you want us to be. So, it's the higher, this the divinity that expressed to us in a way that, depending on our path, depending for each one is different, each one of us. It could be for some in a matter of teachings or books or lessons or whatever in my life. It was for me to see them and experience them this way. Everything is for our growth and evolution. And this is how I started just to continue experiencing life. But very important thing is that another key person arrived into my life, and it was my father's mother. And
Mm.
why I say arrived, like, is she didn't live in Colombia. She would come visit. She didn't come very often, but in one of her visits, now I'm like at the age where I have more dialogue, more of these. And then she came to our house, and she was a very spiritual person.
Mm.
So the importance of this is that my experience didn't just stay as an experience, because at the end of the day, everything is just an experience. But she came to my life to show me the purpose of it, to guide me through the path of spirituality,
Mm.
to make sense of things, to bring me deeper. So my grandma that was raised as Catholic, she was a very spiritual woman, and she always thought there has to be more than the Catholic teachings. And she joined an order called the Rosicrucian Order, then started to study Buddhism and Hinduism and Kabbalah and chakras and everything that was available there, because she always thought there has to be more.
Mm.
And when she came to our life and she started to talk this language, I said, Grandma, she speaks like the beings of light.
Aw.
And we became buddies she taught me how to meditate.
Mm.
So I've been meditating since I was a little child. And
Wow.
even with my first, she taught me the Om, and with the first experience with the Om, I already have what is called the movement of the energy, like a Kundalini is the energy, the light that goes through our center of our body. And I already had my first kind of Kundalini shaking awakening too. So that was incredible how they were right. I was never going to be alone.
Mm.
So, but Omar, despite of so many good things, because all these sound like, oh my God, that had to be awesome. All this greatness also have a lot of opposition, to say it that way. There's a lot of good, but there was also a lot of hardship,
Mm.
because I felt the sense that I was not understood.
Mm.
Of course, I wasn't. I felt the sense that I was like an alien in this world. I felt the sense that, what am I doing here? Nobody understands me. Since from the time I came back from my near-death experience, I would look at other children and think, what is happening to these people? They don't know anything.
Wow.
So I could not relate to people. I could not relate to my persona. I did not want to be here. And the more I grew, it was even this connection was greater, because I would now compare myself with others, and I'll be like, I don't belong here.
Mm.
And then in school, I got a lot of bullying happening and
Oh.
ostracized, all that because I didn't look like or act like anybody else. So it came, yeah, with a lot of gifts, but it also came with a lot of burdens. And it was hard to grow like that. And my grandma became my refugee. She would take me to all her meetings, all her spiritual stuff. But at school, I was alone.
Mm.
Only at the very end of high school, I had friends and it all happened because of a moment of horrendous bullying that two girls felt compassion and say, stop treating her that way.
Oh, wow.
They became my friends. But other than that, it was hard. And my oldest sister, she was my protector.
Mm.
And then once I finished high school, I made the decision I'm going to change. I
Oh.
want to be like everybody else. I was tired. I was tired to be different. And then when I went to college, of course, it was a process of adapting now to this new college world. But I decided already I am going to be a different person. And when I was 19, I started my college when I was 17. But I was 19, almost 2 years later, I was like, I had an experience in which I was sitting in a bus. Things were difficult still. Things at home were hard. My parents were about to divorce, and I'm
Oh.
sitting in this bus, and I thought, I wish none of this was real. And no more. I just like, watch out with what you say.
Uh-oh.
Totally, the whole bus started to dissolve.
Oh, wow.
All the constituents that made the bus possible, I started to identify everything and I started to feel and realize how everything was held by vibration.
Mm.
How as that vibration changed, everything dissolved, and I was back in the light.
Mm.
And then it was just for a few seconds, and then I was back in the body. And it's when I realized nothing is what it appears to be.
Mm.
And then I came with two very deep questions. How is it possible? Or when did we forget who we truly are? And how is it possible to forget?
Mm.
How possible? Because I went back to source. And then, you know, even though in my first near death experience, I didn't have the concept of God. I didn't have the concept of love. I was too little. But as I started to discover it, it came the time when I realized, wow, I completely melted and dissolved in the arms of God, source, divine, I don't know, however people want to call it, the light of consciousness, the universe embraces, I don't know, presence, what I melted in it. It's like, and it's what people know as love.
Mm.
In it, you're accepted. You are, is the sense of absolute and complete belonging is home.
Mm.
So I felt it again, like, how is it possible to forget who we truly are? And when did we forget?
Mm.
And it's when the beings of light said to me, in 20 years, you will understand. Like 20 years? So what the? And yeah, because at that moment, I did not have the knowledge, I didn't have the understanding, and I was feeling as a victim.
No.
You're a victim, your vibration is not one that is open to really deeply understand. So at that moment, the beings of light asked me if I wanted to continue this and be like a teacher, like a spiritual teacher. And I said no. I want to be like everybody else.
Mm.
Like pretty much leave me alone for now. But that was good because Omar, I've been like walking in the clouds and now I needed to ground.
Mm.
It's very important. I mean, this is my human experience. I needed to ground because people ask me, how could you say that to the beings of light? Are you crazy? I said, how could you leave home and leave your parents and go college? It's
Mm.
the thing. There's a moment in which you have to become your individual, mature being. You have to grow, you have to ground. And that I needed this moment.
Mm.
Reason why I picked a career like as a scientist. I became a marine biologist. It was one more grounding career than science. So it brought me. kind of like land her, and I said, so little, it didn't just happen in one night. Little that connection started to fade. And because I lowered my vibration, I got
Oh.
very busy studying. I got into my things and into people. I wanted, later in my life, when I said to the beings, like, I wanted to be normal.
Mm.
They said to me, no, you didn't want to be normal. You wanted to
Mm.
belong.
Oh.
We all need to belong. And
Mm.
it need to belong was enormous. And then, but what happened, Omar, when you've been in a room with the lights on? For 19 years, I had other sufferings, but I had the lights on. The beings
Mm.
that I could ask anything and they will give me answers. Now I turn off the light. So you're in a room with the lights on and it's full of furniture. You can see, you don't trip. What happened when you're in a room with the lights off?
Mm.
Full of furniture, you trip.
Mm.
So my analogy brings you to the understanding that when you're in that darkness, suffering, a lot of suffering happens because you don't have understanding.
No.
Suffering comes from the lack of understanding of the experiences. So at that moment, I started to have all these different experiences that brought me to 20 years of tripping and tripping with all sorts of obstacles until the time came when I made the decision. I continue studying though, and like all that brought me to, actually become an Ingrid that was more loving, more empathic, more compassionate, more open, more in the and now everything that has happened in a spontaneous way when I was a child, now I wanted it consciously.
Mm.
Things were not happening like now consciously I wanted to go back to remember.
Mm.
So that's how, when at this point in my life, I have what I call a big awakening. It was the time to wake up. Yeah, yeah. But in the meantime, I don't know if we have too much time, but I could resume or we could leave it for another time. But I had a second near-death experience.
Yeah, I mean, we could. If you have time, it's fine. We could keep going, and you don't have to say all the. We could do the. Yeah, you don't have to go into every detail, but
Yeah, like we can just go in a way that we accelerate things a little bit. But when I was 24 years old and I was deviating a lot from the path, because now you get really, really busy with your stuff. I had a second near that experience.
mm.
And in this case, or we could just say the third one if we count the infant one.
Oh, absolutely,
So
yeah.
the one in the it was in a motorcycle accident.
Oh, wow.
I was living in an island in the Caribbean doing my marine biology stuff. And then I had this new bike and somebody asked me to bring him to his home. It was a friend and he was a big guy and it was a new bike, I was new riding bike, no motorcycle. And then I was kind of nervous and he's like, oh, don't be a chicken. Oh, really? I'm not a chicken. Let's go.
Uh-oh.
And we're in this motorcycle and I am not wearing a helmet because you're cool. You cannot be, I mean, you need to look nice. And then no
Wow.
helmet. So we're in this motorcycle, and there's a moment where I have to go up to this hill, and it was a very inclined place, and I got really nervous,
Mm.
really. And then when the bike asked me for the change in gear, I don't know what happened. I really don't know what happened, Omar, but I guess my nervousness made that the bike was kind of shaking, change gear, and I lost balance. And then something amazing happened. And this is the importance about this experience is that I can bring to people the clarity that when their loved ones, because I get a lot of these questions, like what happened to my loved one when the person died in a tragic accident.
Mm.
And you probably hear this from other people that have had near their experiences in accidents like this. Even before the motorcycle hit the ground, I was already outside.
Ah.
I was already in the middle of the road.
Mm.
And I am standing in the middle of the road. And the most beautiful thing was that repetition of like, a similar experience that when I died at 3, it was the fear was gone.
Oh.
In the bike, I'm in such fear, like I cannot control this bike. I was so scared, so anxious, and now
Mm.
free from all those emotions, free from all those fears. I'm again like, that was the thing that most impacted me from this experience, that sense of freedom from anything that we're always scared about, and all the conditionings and all the things, and nothing.
Wow.
Just expansion again, just free from all of it. And then now I'm standing there in the light and I'm like, I'm ready to be home. Again, I'm take me home. I'm ready to be home. And then at that moment, some people came to the scene of the accident. And then it's when now a perception of someone touching my
Mm.
body happened. But I just felt like, why I cannot see this person? If
Mm.
someone is touching the, why I cannot see? I only could see light. And then is when I touch my face, and now at that moment everything went dark.
Oh.
And it's when I realized I cannot see this person because I was blind.
Oh, wow.
When I hit the ground, I had severe head trauma. And then I was rushed to the hospital. I thought, imagine now the absolute fear, like blind, everything. I'm not blind. I was so scared. And now I am in the hospital, and little by little, I started to recover my vision. It was
Mm.
it, I had in the head. And then later, in the presence of the doctor and my friend, he didn't have much, just some scrapes. The doctor said that I probably lost my vision the moment my head hit the
Oh.
ground because of the impact. And I said, I don't think so. I said, because I'm standing in the middle of the road and I'm seeing light. So I'm seeing. And then
Mm.
my friend said, Ingrid, I don't think you could have seen light because the accident happened at night.
Oh.
And the road where the accident happened, there was not street lights. It was pitch black.
Oh, wow.
So he said, you could not have seen any light. And he said, and second, you never stood up.
Oh, wow.
So different from my first near death, in which I saw my body was aware. In this one, I did not I didn't see my body. I was also ready outside,
Mm.
go home. So it was just that fast. So
Wow.
this experience was that incredible. And there's another thing, Omar. The teachings about this experience was the realization that pain belongs to the body.
Mm.
There was no pain whatsoever. No fear, nothing that belongs to the body was there.
Mm.
And later on in my life, because there's certain things we don't remember at the moment, but later they get revealed to us, it came the revelation of realizing with clarity that union, that connection between the soul and the nervous system.
Wow.
And it felt like, like if your soul is made for this body, like a glove, like it fits perfectly, like, and there was vibration and sound, and it's hard, it's almost impossible to describe this, but it's almost like electric thing.
Mm.
That was another amazing experience. And the last one, so I can share with you guys that it kind of closes the circle of understanding and clarity and everything, because for now it's been an entire lifetime feeling the sense of not belonging.
Mm.
I always felt depressed, although I even have had, like I said to you, I call a big awakening when I was in my early 40. I was late 30. I was 40 years old, actually. Yeah, when I had that big thinking, yeah. And then, but I always had that, that nostalgic feeling of like, I am not home,
Mm.
want to go back home. And then the last near death clarified everything. So 3 years ago, I needed a surgery. I had to have this surgery. And right before the surgery happened, I told the doctor, you have to monitor my blood pressure.
Mm.
Have to. Something is going to happen. And the doctor, I'm like, oh man, there was this woman, but I was so on it that she called the anesthesiologist and said, you have to really monitor my blood pressure. And I said to them, I'm very sensitive to anesthesia. So they were like, okay, whatever. They were being careful there. And yeah, just as I said, during the surgery, my blood pressure went to the ground,
Wow.
went into hypothermia, and I left.
Oof.
And I entered directly into the light. And when I am in the light, it's the first time from all the experiences, Omar, that I heard if I wanted to stay or I wanted to come back.
Oh, wow.
And most of the near-death experiences, they are like, you have to go back. You're not
Yeah.
ready. It's not your time. No, here I got to choose.
Mm.
And when I heard you want to stay, I was like, "Oh, how can you even ask this question? Of course, I want to stay. I am home. I'm finally home." And people may ask me, what about your son, your husband? I mean, like, really? And I'm like, what happened, Omar, is when you're in that state of beingness, at least for me, I was in complete detachment.
Mm.
And at that moment, I knew that God's plan was perfect. And that if my son, my husband, my family had to go through whatever they had to go through, that was part of their path.
Mm.
So I saw perfection. I'm like, if I go back or not, it's part of the plan.
Mm.
So I did not attach, I wasn't attached to anything. And then I just wanted to be home.
Mm.
But when I heard, oh, you want to go back, because I've been practicing presence, meditation, awareness for so many years, that paid off, because at that moment is when I said, wait a minute, is this a test?
Oh.
I said, because if God, source, light of awareness, is everywhere, always, and absolutely everything is a manifestation of consciousness. So where is here and where is there?
Hmm.
I said, oh, I get it. There is no here and there is not there. I already have realized that we are multidimensional beings. All realities are here and now. So
Mm.
what is there and what is here is just about focus of attention. Where is your consciousness? So I'm like, and the only thing that crossed my mind at that moment, Omar, was to say, keep me where I can serve you, where I can serve God the most.
Mm.
And at that moment, I was back. At that moment, those feelings of attachment started to happen because I needed grounding.
Mm.
And I started to feel about the purpose I was still having here on earth.
Mm.
Then I was back. And that's when that message, that's why I say it's full circle, that I started to understand that when I was a child, about home became not just knowledge, became a truth, experiential truth. Is when I said, I get it for real. Home is not a place, it's a state of consciousness, it's a state of being. So now for me, like, home is wherever I am, as long as I am connected to the truth that I am, connected to my soul, connected to God, I am at home. And sometimes, yeah, I lose the connection and I'm like, oh, I need to go back home here and now. And it's when I realized it's not about near death experience, it's about near life experience.
Wow.
How can we live life to the fullest?
Mm.
So I think for now, I think we're good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. That was amazing. That was amazing. And what a perfect way to close it out. Um so obviously we mentioned your book, right? And I hadn't got, so I know it's a lot more detailed, right? Because there were even things, but we could do it again and I can ask you about all those things in detail because there's just so much
Yeah, oh,
information.
there's so much. And I have another book. Let me show to you. Sorry, I had to move away a little, but I am writing a collection of children books.
Wow.
They can remember their nature too. And I'm finishing another book right now. It's in edition called Dying to See the Light, a
Wow.
scientist's guide to reawakening without nearly dying.
Wow.
So
But that
yeah,
one's not published yet?
not yet. I think it will be out there maybe November,
Mm.
the end of November.
Okay, perfect. Wow, if you want, maybe we can do another one and we'll talk about the book and
Yes,
help you promote it a little bit and
that would be great. That would be awesome. Yeah.
absolutely. And I'll definitely I have so many things I want to ask you, so it'll be easy to talk about some of those things. So is there anything else right now you're doing aside from the books? You still do speaking engagements as well?
Yes, traveling a lot. I also do retreats. I teach classes. I do one-on-one sessions with people. Oh, there's a lot going on, Omar. I haven't stopped moving and traveling and sharing because you know what is happening? The sense of service.
Mm,
How can I serve? How? And again, like I mentioned to you before we started the podcast, I said, I'm not here to convince anybody about anything. But if I can share any seed that allow people to feel more empowered, more alive, more connected, then I'm here to do that.
mm.
So yeah, I am serving in any way, like you are with this beautiful podcast.
Aw, thank you, thank you. No, absolutely. No, and you inspired me to, sometimes we need to be reminded of why we're doing what we're doing. I'll just share with you once. I had a couple years ago, I don't know, but I had this vision where they came to me and they said, "Oh, do you want to go?" And I said, "Yes," without thinking. And then I heard them, they said, "Oh," like they didn't expect me to say, "Yes, I'm ready." But then when I woke up, I knew, like I already knew at the last minute. And I said, "You know what? I'll stay. I'll stay." But it was like how you, like that time, now I had the choice. Like they were like, so I don't know, maybe the same because I didn't see, maybe maybe I thought like, oh, is this a test or something?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
so that's really interesting that you
Because
said
in
that.
every experience I wanted to live, and I realized, oh, the ego mind is
Mm,
kind of, because the ego mind is like the ego wants comfort. Like, of course, I want to stay. This feels good. But it's when I realized, no, there's work to do. There's more service,
mm,
and actually, there's not home is here. So what is the difference?
mm.
So it's like that was incredible. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So thank you. But yeah, no, I'm really excited to finish the book and I'm excited to see the new book as well. So yeah, on that note, I'll put all the links in the description for anybody that wants to get a hold of you. And no, it's just an honor. I'm very, I hung into your story like every bit of it. So I'm really excited to see what everybody thinks. So thank you to everybody that tuned in, and thank you, Ingrid, once again. It's an honor.
Thank you for having me here. The honor is mine.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay.
Life may move fast or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he make it slow. We look up out towards space or even at the sky. One that gets away but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is a maze but we'll figure this out. I mean human beings, I ain't got no doubt. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever.